If your resume says ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, and 5 other AI tools, you have not proved that you are good at AI. You have proved that you can name products. A recruiter still needs to know what work was slow, what you changed, where you applied human judgment, and what became better because of it. That distinction matters because AI literacy is becoming more common. Recent LinkedIn data placed AI literacy among the fastest growing skills in the United States. But process optimization, adaptability, and human skills are also rising. Employers are not simply looking for someone who can open an AI tool. They need someone who can improve real work without creating new errors, risks, or confusion. Think of it this way. A restaurant manager would not hire a chef because the chef listed ovens, knives, and mixers. Those are tools. The useful evidence is whether the chef redesigned preparation, maintained quality, reduced waste, or served customers faster. Your AI story should work the same way. The weak version usually appears in a skills section. It says AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, and Midjourney. This takes up space, dates quickly, and gives the recruiter no way to judge your ability. A stronger version might say, redesigned the weekly customer feedback review process using AI-assisted classification, with manual validation for ambiguous comments and immediate escalation of safety issues. That sentence shows a process. It also shows that the candidate did not hand every decision to a machine. If you have verified results, make it even stronger. For example, redesigned the weekly customer feedback review process using AI-assisted classification, then manually validated edge cases and escalated safety issues, reducing first-pass review time from 6 hours to 2. Only use numbers you can defend. The point is not to manufacture an impressive percentage. The point is to connect AI use to an observable improvement. A useful AI accomplishment has 5 parts. Start with the bottleneck. Explain the new workflow. Identify the human decisions. Describe the quality control. Then show the outcome. Let's unpack each part. First, name the bottleneck. What was actually going wrong before AI entered the process? Maybe support agents were reading hundreds of repetitive comments. Perhaps a project coordinator spent Monday morning converting meeting notes into action items. A marketer repeatedly adapted one approved article for email, social media, and sales materials. A financial analyst cleaned inconsistent descriptions before categorizing expenses. Writing took too long is vague. The team spent 4 hours every Friday converting webinar transcripts into channel-specific drafts is a bottleneck. It identifies the task, frequency, and cost. This is important because employers do not buy tools. They pay people to remove constraints. When you clearly diagnose the constraint, you sound like someone who understands operations rather than someone chasing software trends. Second, explain what changed in the workflow. Do not stop at "I used AI." Walk through the handoffs. Here is a weak resume line. Used ChatGPT to create marketing content. Here is the stronger version. Created an AI-assisted content repurposing workflow that converted approved webinar transcripts into first drafts for email, social media, and sales follow-up. Selected the source claims, adapted each draft to the channel, and checked all statistics against the original material before publication. Now the recruiter can picture the work. The AI produced a first pass. The employee chose the approved source, made communication decisions, and verified the final material. If you want more practical breakdowns that help you turn experience into evidence recruiters can understand, subscribe. We focus on the wording and proof that actually improve applications and interviews. The third part is the most valuable one. Show the human decision points. AI fluency is not the ability to delegate everything. It is knowing what can be delegated, what requires supervision, and what should remain fully human. Microsoft's 2026 workplace research found that AI users increasingly see quality control and critical thinking as more important when AI performs more of the execution. That is exactly what your application should demonstrate. Suppose you built a workflow for responding to customer questions. The machine might group similar requests and draft replies. A human should still decide whether the response fits company policy, whether the customer is frustrated enough to need escalation, and whether the answer involves financial, legal, privacy, or safety risk. Those decisions are part of your skill. Mention them. You could say, used AI to draft responses for common account questions, while personally reviewing requests involving refunds, personal data, or policy exceptions. That is far more credible than saying automated customer service with AI. The second version sounds reckless unless you can explain the boundaries. Next comes quality control. Many applicants hide this because they think admitting that AI makes mistakes will weaken their story. It does the opposite. Anyone who has used these systems seriously knows that fluent output is not always accurate output. Your checks should match the risk of the task. A brainstorming document may need a quick relevance review. A public article needs source verification and brand review. A financial report needs formula checks, reconciliation, and clear data ownership. Material involving hiring, healthcare, legal issues, or personal information requires much tighter controls and may not belong in an unapproved public tool at all. Quality control can include comparing claims with original documents, testing a sample manually, using an approved template, requiring a second reviewer, keeping sensitive information out of the input, or creating an escalation rule for uncertain cases. Do not just say ensured accuracy. Explain how. A stronger line is, reviewed each AI-generated summary against the source interview, corrected unsupported claims, and required final approval from the account owner before client delivery. That language signals responsibility. You are not presenting yourself as a passenger who accepted whatever appeared on the screen. You owned the result. Then show the outcome. Time saved is useful, but it is not the only result that matters. You can also measure turnaround time, volume handled, error rates, revision rounds, response consistency, completion rates, or missed handoffs. Start with a real baseline. Compare similar periods or similar tasks. If the old process took 3 hours and the new one takes 90 minutes, say that. If 5 people adopted your template, say that. If you do not have reliable before and after numbers, do not guess. You can still show scale. For example, built a reusable AI-assisted meeting follow-up process for a 4-person project team, converting weekly notes into draft actions and then verifying owners, deadlines, and dependencies before distribution. That does not claim a fictional productivity gain. It still tells the recruiter that the workflow was repeatable, used by a team, and included verification. This same approach works on LinkedIn. A week about section says, AI-savvy project manager experienced with ChatGPT and Copilot. That sounds like thousands of other profiles. A stronger version says, project manager who builds AI-assisted reporting and follow-up workflows. I use automation for first-pass summaries and document organization, then verify decisions, owners, deadlines, and source data before anything reaches stakeholders. The second version contains searchable concepts, but it also communicates how the person works. In an interview, avoid the generic answer, I use AI every day to save time. It invites the interviewer to wonder whether you are outsourcing work you do not understand. Try this instead. Our weekly status update required collecting notes from several work streams, and the first draft was taking most of an afternoon. I created a structured intake template and used an approved AI tool to organize the updates and flag missing information. I still reviewed every risk, changed the language where the draft overstated progress, and confirmed deadlines with each owner. That gave me more time to resolve issues rather than format the report. Notice what makes that answer work. The candidate understands the old process, designed the input, supervised the output, caught a specific failure mode, and redirected time toward higher value work. You can also turn one good example into a small portfolio case study. Keep it simple. Describe the original process, the bottleneck, the revised workflow, what the AI handled, what you handled, the controls you added, and the verified result. Remove confidential names, customer data, internal documents, and proprietary instructions. For career changers, this is especially useful. You may not have an AI job title, but you can still prove relevant judgment. A teacher moving into learning and development should not write, "Used Copilot for lesson plans." A stronger version is, "Built an AI-assisted lesson adaptation workflow using teacher-approved source material and defined reading level requirements. Reviewed every draft for factual accuracy, accessibility, and alignment with learning objectives before classroom use." That example translates teaching experience into workflow design, quality assurance, and responsible technology use. Finally, do not confuse complexity with value. Connecting 6 tools is not automatically better than improving one painful handoff. A simple process that saves reliable time and protects quality is stronger evidence than an elaborate system nobody trusts or uses. So audit your resume today. Find every place where you merely listed an AI product or wrote, "Used AI to improve efficiency." Replace it with a short proof story. What was the bottleneck? What did the tool handle? Which decisions stayed with you? How did you check the work? What changed afterward? Tools will change. That workflow logic transfers. And that is the difference between claiming AI fluency and showing that you can use AI to produce work an employer can trust. If you have an AI resume line you are struggling to rewrite, put it in the comments. You can also suggest the next job search topic you want us to break down.